During the expansions of the Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, we had a system called badges. Badges were quite nice and allowed players to passively earn gear to buy equal to current raid tier. However, with the expansion Cataclysm, they tried to shuffle this up with the reworking of the badge system into the Valor system. Cataclysm had two currencies used to buy gear: Valor, which came from the current raid or your first daily heroic dungeon, and was used to buy a large variety of raid gear. And also a secondary currency, Justice, which was obtained by doing older Cataclysm raids and also random heroic dungeons. There was also a funny little part in this that Emblems of Frost and Emblems of Triumph from Wrath of the Lich King expansion also became Justice points, and these points were used to buy gear from vendors who previously sold them for badges. And later, as more raids were added to Cataclysm, older raids were converted to this as well, meaning a player who saved their badges from Wrath of the Lich King could actually use them to buy gear from the Firelands vendor. That is, if they waited until Dragon Soul at least. But enough about Justice points, this video is about Valor. Valor points were limited on how much you could earn per week, as you got some for doing your daily heroic and some for defeating bosses on 10 and 25 man each week. And as in Cataclysm, you were limited to doing one or the other 10 or 25 man mode for that week. So if you wanted the most Valor, you had to do 25 man. Heroic too, as Bastion of Twilight had an extra boss on Heroic, meaning more Valor. Then with patch 4.1, they added the rise of the Zandalari dungeons, and completing a random one of these each day on Heroic granted even more Valor. Then in patch 4.2, we had the Firelands, and with that we had our first Valor point reset. All previous Valor points were just turned into Justice points, and with it, all previous Valor gear was made available for Justice points. But at the same time, old content still gave Valor points though. Meaning if you wanted that sweet new gear, you could get extra Valor by grinding old content in the form of the daily heroic, daily Zandalari heroic, and the heroic modes of the previous raid tiers. But not their normal modes, as those didn't give Valor anymore. But all the modes of the new Firelands raid did. So this is a lot of stuff for Valor, but it was well worth it. You could buy all sorts of gear, including tier gear, at least normal versions anyway, and being able to guarantee a full set of normal mode gear after a while, with no worry of RNG or killing specific bosses, was pretty amazing. But sadly, well, something I forgot to mention was before this there was a weekly cap of 1250, which meant you could buy a piece of gear pretty much every week really easily. However, with the Firelands, they reduced this cap to 980, meaning it could take anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to get the item you wanted now. And then with patch 4.3, they raised this to a simple 1000. Which was still lower than its original cap. And of course, also with 4.3 and the new Dragon Soul raid came another Valor wipe, meaning you needed to do the new raid to get the most Valor, but could still grind old raids for Valor if you wanted in the heroic modes. They also made it so 10 and 25 man modes drop the same amount of Valor. Also in 4.3, they introduced the Raid Finder system, and with this, Blizzard felt that with more ways to kill bosses meant more ways to get tier gear, causing them to just remove tier gear from the Valor vendor, leaving it really only with off pieces and trinkets, and removing a lot of the previous options that players did have with Valor. This change, on top of the new easy mode looking for raid, did not sit well with the player base, as being able to guarantee, after a couple of weeks, being able to buy whatever you wanted was quite nice, a bonus on top of the randomness of raid loot, to then having to roll for it against players. Then on to Mist of Pandaria, yet another reset happened, moving all old Valor into Justice. It still held the weekly cap of 1000, but it reduced the original 4000 total cap of Valor down to 3000. However, they did add a new buff called Valor of the Ancients. This buff activated when you reached the 1000 weekly Valor cap, and once activated would appear in all of your alts on the realm for the week, giving them a 50% increase Valor gain, allowing you to get Valor on your altar to at double the speed compared to your main, or 50% the speed. And where did you get the Valor? Well, for your Pandaria, you got them from daily quests, daily challenge mode quests, heroic dungeons, raid bosses, raid finders, scenarios, and completing challenge modes in gold, silver, or bronze. And one other thing different was the gear you could buy did not have a simple Valor cost. It also had a reputation requirement, which meant you needed to do a lot of dailies to not only get Valor, but to get the revered rep required to buy the gear from the respective faction. Luckily, this is also when Blizzard removed the 25 daily quest limit, so you could do as many dailies as you wanted, although it ended up being a massive drain on players' time. And so in another hotfix shortly after, they reduced the requirement of some of the Valor gear from revered to just honored, making it a lot less dailies required. But that's not all. The Valor was used in most of Mists of Pandaria. All gear, be it dungeon, raid, or Valor gear, could be upgraded, increasing the eye level by 4 each upgrade, and each item could be upgraded twice. But then in patch 5.4, this was changed to be upgraded 4 times, but only for the new gear from the new raid, Siege of Orgrimmar. You could even buy Valor points directly from the Thunder Isle and Timeless Isle, but these were limited as well to how much you could even buy each week. And well, then in Warlords of Draenor, Valor was removed. Or for a short time anyway. In patch 6.2, it got re-added, however, now renamed to just Valor, instead of Valor points. This new Valor no longer had a weekly cap, so you could earn as much as you wanted, and well, it was not used to buy any gear. Instead, it was simply used to upgrade gear from the final raid, Hellfire Citadel, or upgrade crafted gear by up to 10 item levels. And you obtained Valor just like in the past, with your random heroic dungeon of the day, mythic dungeons, doing some raids, or completing some weekly bonus events, which you could use to purchase an upgrade for your legendary rank if you really wanted to as well. While Valor stayed for the rest of Warlords of Draenor and all of Legion, it really had no use, as it only worked on Warlords of Draenor gear. So while technically in the game in Legion, it wasn't a viable thing. And finally with BFA, they removed it. Even though it would not be till Shadowlands it would be used again. In the first minor patch of Shadowlands in 9.0.5, it was re-added to the game. It was treated entirely different than any of its past versions. While it could be used to upgrade gear like in Pandaria and Warlords of Draenor, it was slightly different. See, in Cataclysm it was used to buy gear, in Mists of Pandaria it was used to buy gear and upgrade gear by 8 and then 16 item levels. Then in Warlords of Draenor it was used to upgrade gear by 10 item levels, but in Shadowlands it upgraded all gear that is obtained for Mythic Plus at least to a set number. Mythic Plus gear can be upgraded all the way from 184 to 200 with the simple cost of Valor. Then upgraded to 207 if the player completed all dungeons on at least level 5 or higher within the time limit. And then if they did all 10s in time, you can upgrade them to 213, and then if they do all 15s on time, they can upgrade it all the way up to 220. Instead of in the past, where an 180 item level piece would only become 190 item level, and couldn't get to the real cap of the tier at 210. Nowadays, that 180 could be upgraded all the way up to 220, and that made balancing far different for the system, and overall a lot more useful, as instead of acting as a slight buff to all of your gear, it instead allowed you to upgrade some of your weakest slots by farming items for that slot. Although you could do super low dungeons to get an item quickly, to then upgrade it later. It would just cost more Valor to upgrade it overall than if you farmed it at a higher item level. So, it's up to you if you wanted to farm a low item level and save up Valor, or farm a high item level and only need a bit of Valor. Now, how could you get Valor in Shadowlands? Well, first off, callings, with a higher quality callings giving more Valor, but the main source being Mythic Plus dungeons, and each dungeon given a lump sum of Valor, no matter how high the key. Again, allowing you to spam low level keys for tons of Valor. And with the weekly cap returned, although not really a weekly cap, week 1 the cap was 5,000, but the cap did not reset next week. Instead, you could earn 750 more, meaning the new cap was 5,750. And then the week after that, the cap is 6,500. And then after that, 7,250. And then after that, 8,000, and so forth and so forth. So if a player earned 1,000 Valor in the first week, they would be able to earn 4,000 more the next week. And then if they still waited till the next week, they could then be able to earn 4,750. So if they then farmed it all, they would be able to earn 0 more. And then next week, they could earn another 750. And, well, that's it for Valor. Blizzard has said they will continue the system for Shadowlands, so it might have more changes to it. So if you're watching this video in the future, it's probably a little bit more added on.